So picture this, you've trained for months, your body's in peak shape, and the day arrives for you to perform. But as you step onto the field or the starting line, your mind starts to race with what if? What if I mess up? What if I let everyone down? And suddenly you're questioning everything, like whether that second bowl of pasta last night was really carb loading or just emotional support. In that critical moment, the thrill of competition can morph into a whirlwind of anxiety and self-doubt. From my experience coaching so many athletes, I can tell you that this mental spiral is the #1 performance killer. It's a kind of self-sabotage that originates in the mind. This mental enemy goes by many names like performance anxiety, fear of failure, choking under pressure, but whatever you call it, it's incredibly common and also very incredibly destructive. In fact, we estimate that performance anxiety affects around 30 to 60% of athletes, and that means at least 1 in 3 athletes struggle with intense fear or nervousness when the stakes are high. And honestly, if you haven't felt it, then you're either lying or accidentally wandering into the wrong sport. The pressure to perform can create a real fear of failure or losing, or even feeling letting coaches or teammates down. And whilst a little bit of nervous energy is normal, the trouble starts when the fear starts to take over. What I've seen over and over in athletes I coach is this process. When the mind goes to a dark place, the performance falls apart. An athlete could be physically the best on the field, but if they're hit by doubt or focused on their fears, it's like an anchor dragging them down. They might start second guessing their every move or play it safe to avoid certain mistakes. So what I want to do here is really explore what's actually happening. Why does an athlete who looks prepared suddenly underperform when it matters most? And to answer that, we need to understand how fear and anxiety affect both the mind and the body in competition. Many athletes know the feeling of pre-game butterflies, waking them up and getting them feeling in the zone. In fact, there is a well-known concept in sports science called the inverted U theory, which suggests that performance is best at moderate levels of arousal. We won't get too technical here because optimal arousal levels doesn't sound nearly as exciting as it should. As harmful as the physical effects of fear can be, the mental effects can be even worse. Pre-competition anxiety clouds mental clarity, often triggering negative self-talk and spiral of doom thinking. You start to dwell on past mistakes, and these thoughts crowd the mind of your focus. It's like fog over your mind at the worst possible time. The kind of fog where you forget your game plan, but somehow remember everything embarrassing thing you've done since the age of 12. Another mental habit that destroys performance is overthinking. Great athletes often talk about being in a flow state or playing on instinct. Here, they're not thinking of every little detail, they're just doing it. But anxiety pulls you out of that flow and can focus your brain to micromanage. Believe it or not, anxiety can create gaps in skills that are usually automatic. When athletes are anxious, tasks that normally run on autopilot can break down as the person starts to overthink something that they shouldn't be thinking of. The result is that mistakes happen on simple plays. This phenomenon is often called paralysis by analysis in sport. Your mind is in an effort to avoid error and actually causes errors by trying to control every little aspect of a skill that you've already mastered. Now, let's pause here and acknowledge something really important. Feeling anxiety or fear doesn't mean that you're weak or not cut out for sport. It means that you're human. Even the experienced athletes in the world feel those nerves. The difference is how they respond to it. And that brings us to the good news. Just as your mind can destroy your performance, it can also boost it if you train it correctly. We begin here by exploring a term called self-efficiency, which is a fancy term for self-belief or confidence in your skill. By the way, if I had $1 for every time an athlete said, "I just need more confidence," I could probably retire and start a podcast about confidence. This isn't arrogance, it's a deep-seated confidence. And because of that confidence, they interpret butterflies in their stomach differently. Athletes with high self-efficiency tend to understand high-pressure moments as challenges to overcome, rather than threats to avoid. The ones seeing a challenge are more likely to succeed under pressure because that mindset keeps them composed and focused instead of a little bit panicky. Closely related to this is the idea of mental toughness. Mental toughness is the ability to stay calm, resilient, and task-orientated under stress. You might think of this as the opposite of choking. Basically, when everyone else is panicky or under pressure, you're the one who's calm, like it's a normal random day and you're chilling out on a Tuesday. One key point to remember is a mentally tough athlete can have things go wrong as well. A bad call by a referee, a setback early in the match, but they won't collapse under their mental pressure. Research supports that this trait is huge, as athletes with high mental toughness manage stress better and can sustain high performance levels even when their conditions are brutal. Instead of the pressure breaking them, they bend and adapt. Now, some people seem born with a bit of mental resilience, but it's also a skill that you can develop. So let's talk about a few practical strategies that can help transform that fear into a performance killer that can enhance your game. These are techniques I work on with athletes, backed by mindset research that anyone can start using. Studies show that positive self-talk can improve athletic performance. It helps replace the negative thoughts and dread that comes with anxiety with a more focused and motivated mindset. Top performers in sport often use visualization techniques, and for a good reason. Visualization is basically a mental rehearsal. Mental imagery is a skill, but it gets better with practice. Even starting with a few minutes a day can create a notable shift in how you handle pressure. By the way, have you ever noticed how some athletes do the exact same thing before every competition? It might be a specific warm-up, a particular stretch, a breathing exercise, or even a little ritual like bouncing the ball a set number of times. These routines are a way to get the mind into optimal zone. By doing the same positive routine every time, you signal that message to your brain. And research has found that pre-performance routines help maintain consistency and reduced anxiety. Basically, it's superstition, but with data behind it. A routine gives you a sense of control and normality, even in high-stakes situations. These behaviours become cues for your mind to lock in, helping it shut out distraction. They also prevent you from doing nothing, because standing around and thinking of your nerves is probably the worst thing. Instead, you actively occupy your mind and body with helpful actions. Over time, it becomes a comfortable habit that can keep you grounded when anxiety threatens to rise. It's like pressing your own mental reset button, except it actually works. Cognitive restructuring is also a big term used to challenge irrational fears based on thoughts and replace them with constructive and realistic ones. Or, as I like to call it, arguing with yourself, but a little bit more productively. I found that this kind of cognitive restructuring, where you basically train yourself to counter negative thoughts with productive ones, maintain mental clarity under pressure. It stops that downward spiral of negativity and keeps your mind available for the task at hand. It's basically mental traffic, keeping the worrying lanes clear for performance to flow. Let's revisit the athlete that we imagined at the beginning, the one standing at the start of line with the knot in their stomach. Suppose the athlete has trained their mind using the techniques we've discussed. How is that moment different for them? They're still feeling the adrenaline. When a negative thought peeped in, they recognised it. They might even be repeating a mantra under their breath, keeping their mind focused and calm. This athlete has taken what used to be a destructive force and turned it into fuel. Now, I want to emphasise, this is a skill set you can learn. No one is born with a perfect mindset. Even champions have had to overcome fears and mental blocks. The difference is that they've worked on it. And in my work, I've seen athletes make incredible transformations once they start paying as much attention to their mental training as they would to their physical training. Every champion has felt fear. Every top athlete has had those moments of doubt. The difference is, champions learn how to keep going anyway. This mindset might not come overnight, but every time you practice it, you're weakening that performance-killing fear and strengthening an unshakable confidence. But one thing we haven't spoken about yet is recovery. So click here to learn what you do after competition, how to process mistakes, how to talk to yourself, and how to recover mentally. It will help you build true mental resilience.